Hey, Insta. Dave Kurt here for our Lake City Live on Wednesdays. So excited to be coming at you live. I'm actually coming at you live from a garage right now as I'm just over trying to visit, socially distanced visit with my sister for her birthday. So I'm coming at you live from my garage right now and trying to do the best I can. We'll be waiting for Tristan. He should be on any minute now. And just I'm excited to connect with you guys and kind of tackle what a lot of people are asking when they kind of get started up with the real estate search criteria. They say, like, one of the first questions that comes to their mind is, what's my first steps? What do I do when I'm interested in buying a house? And I think especially right now, a lot of people, like during COVID, there's Real Richie there, so I'll get him on. A lot of people right now, especially during COVID, are having like the question, and they're thinking to themselves, maybe I'm in an apartment, maybe I'm at my family's house, I'm living with my parents right now. What do I do to be able to buy my first house? What are the first steps I take? What does that look like, either now or even pre-COVID or post-COVID? What does that look like when I want to start preparing myself for when I'm out there shopping and ready to kind of buy the place?
So great to have you today, Tristan. Going Lake City Live on Wednesdays. I see that you're in between appointments probably right now as well.
Yep.
And so things are picking up for you, obviously, eh?
Yeah, it's been getting a little bit busy out here in the market, which is great. But at the same time, we're still taking a lot of precautions. But it's still only people that are very urgently looking to buy or sell.
Yeah, and that's what we're covering the topic of today, right? What does it look like, and what steps are buyers taking as they prepare themselves to buy? So really, like, the way I like to break things down is, maybe you explain it to people this way and maybe you don't, but there's the actual shopping when you're buying, and there's the actual, like, when you're out there putting offers on things. But that doesn't happen right away. And like the early stages is just kind of like, is home ownership right for us? Could I picture myself living in a house? Maybe I'm living with my parents. Maybe I'm living in an apartment. Am I really serious about buying a home?
Do you need to buy a home? Yeah.
Do I need to buy a home? Yeah. Because with a lot of people too, like, I know they have the idea of the white picket fence and the idea that, like, having a home is like kind of what they need to aspire to. But like, as somebody young, especially like in Northern Ontario, if you're not really sure what you want to do for a living kind of thing, and you've got, big grand plans that you want to kind of, build something, or you want to be able to be nimble with your career, maybe buying a house is not a good idea.
Yeah. And with a lot of our generation, the baby boomers and stuff, sorry, not the baby boomers, but the
Gen X and
the millennials. They want to travel more. They want to experience things out of the country when they're young. And honestly, saving isn't something that everyone's learned either, and you need a decent amount of money to buy a house. So I think
it also
pays for everyone, like you said.
It also pays to be able to just pick up and move across the city, across the province, across the country, or across the world for work, right? Like, if you've got something that's calling you from an opportunity that comes up, you don't want to be able to, like, you don't want to say, oh no, I can't do that because of everything else that I've got going on. Like, if you don't have a family, if you don't have kind of anything that's really tying you to your city, man, maybe it's not a great idea to be owning a house right now.
Agreed.
But those people that have kind of made the decision that home ownership is for them, a lot of people, I hear, quote unquote, tired of paying the landlord's mortgage. So what advice are you giving those people?
Well, those people it's not, you are putting money away for equity, which is great when you own a home. But at the same time, you are taking on more responsibility. So if you're ready to move out of your apartment, you got to know that, yes, you are going to build something for your future, a place that you can call home. But it comes with extra responsibility, extra time, effort, and it's not just the mortgage and the utilities you're paying, but there's consistent maintenance that needs to be paid for as well.
I've heard some people say that 2% of the value of your house should go back in just from a maintenance perspective every year. So on a $300,000 house, that's $6,000 you should be spending on maintenance every year. That's not even renovations or up, like those. That's just called the upkeep.
Yeah, that's what I use when I'm calculating when I buy a new property for investment purposes. I use the 2% rule, just to make sure I'm covering those costs. But people also need to think of buying a house, and if you don't do anything to it the whole time that you own it, it's not going to increase with inflation, right? You have to do those consistent little touch-ups. If something goes wrong, you got to fix it right away. You can't let it go too long.
I disagree with you a little bit. Like, it will increase with inflation, but at the same time, like you still have to have an asset that's presentable when you go to sell.
Yeah.
So that asset to be presentable, maybe you put off the caulking around the bathtub and you put off those little maintenance projects. Well, those need to get done before you sell now. Like, it still has gone up with inflation, but it doesn't mean that when you bought the house, it was presentable. And that next buyer is going to expect that it's at least presentable when it's being sold as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so like, let's go through it. Let's kind of, walk through the steps. So we're talking, so how long did, like, what is going through someone's mind when they decide, they make the initial thought that maybe home ownership is right for me. Maybe I should be looking for a house. What do you think is the kind of things that they're thinking about?
The kind of things they're thinking about, I feel people ask me that question when they want to know what's going on in the market and how to just get started, like where to start. And what I always tell them, and it's good, honestly, contacting me or you would be the great way, and we can just kind of go over the process. But what I usually tell them is, number one, get a pre-approval. Find out what you can afford. And not only what you can afford, but what you want to be able to afford. So what you want to pay. Because it's not always, you don't always want to be house poor, right? If you want to do some traveling and stuff, sometimes maybe you don't buy as high as you can afford.
So when Tristan, you're talking about a pre-approval, that's usually like the easiest thing to do is to reach out to whoever you're doing your banking with. He's in a ballpark in terms of what the numbers are actually going to look like. But Tristan's right where he brings up a good point that follows that. It's not really what the bank says you can afford, because the bank, if you're a couple and you both have good jobs, the bank, like, I can almost tell you with certainty that the bank's going to tell you can afford more than you want to spend. Like, if like two good, like, I just dealt with it where, like, I had two, like, they're a young couple, they're engaged, they're married, they're making both good money. One's a nurse, one's an engineer. Like, they're like, we're looking for kind of a house. They're thinking around 300,000 or something like that. They went to the bank. The bank told them they can all afford almost up to 600,000. So, like, usually that number that comes back from the bank is going to be so much higher than you feel comfortable at. But really, it's putting into your head what's the number that you're comfortable affording. And when I sit down with a buyer, one of the first questions we're going over is, what does it translate to the actual payments of the mortgage? Like, what does that look like when you actually take the payments out and you kind of push it back and say, okay, if you're comfortable spending $2,000 a month on your house, on your taxes, and on your utilities, well, we know that utilities are about $300 a month. We know that taxes are about $250 a month. So that's $550 there. So that leaves $1,450 of actual principal and interest that you're paying back. House insurance is another $50, so that's $1,400. What does $1,400 look like on a mortgage? It looks like around, I usually use a ballpark of $450 per 100,000. So even if we said 400, 4,812, you're looking at $325,000 in mortgage.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of the first steps I like to take people to play, is not how much money you can actually afford, and not what the bank's going to say what you can afford, but what do you feel comfortable spending on the mortgage? And I don't really love having that conversation, because I think when we talk about, I can sell you anything on a payment, and I don't like when buyers buy on payments like that. I think that's how people buy more than they need, because they're like, oh, it's only this much a month. Maybe I will get this upgrade, or maybe I'll get that little bit bigger house. But to be honest with them and have those conversations early on, that, like, this is, if you feel comfortable spending this much money on housing, this is what it equates to from a mortgage. And could you pay down faster? Sure, there's lots of steps to do that, but at least get them in that mind frame of thinking that this is kind of the number that you will feel comfortable in, and not that, not spending $2,700 a month on your housing expenses.
100%.
Yeah. So what's like that's the big step first, is that get them pre-approved. But I honestly, most of the people that are out there, and this is on their mind, they're thinking of they're on realtor.ca, they're out there, they're real estate's on their mind. And I use a lot of I'm a stats guy, I'm an accountant, so of course I'm going to be on that for that sense. But we hear a lot of stats that it's 18 months that someone's looking online before they actually reach out to a realtor. So 18 months, that's an incredible amount of time that people are out there searching, and not really searching every day. Maybe they are. There's tons of people that are addicted to realtor.ca, that kind of thing, and they're just constantly searching and looking at properties. But real estate's on their mind. And when real estate's on their mind, they're looking at what's for sale. Maybe they're visiting open houses,
pre-COVID, they were visiting open houses. They're looking at the new listings on the internet, like as they come up. A lot of people will be experts in what's available on on Realtor.ca because they're out there searching all the time. But what's step 2 after they're done the pre-approval in your mind?
If they've decided that buying a house is the next step, then it's meeting with us and making a list of their needs and wants. And then maybe going to see a few homes and refining their list, because depending on their price range, what to expect could change. So you might go see a few houses and realize that, maybe my $250,000 can't get me a open concept, brand new kitchen and a garage. So you got to pick what's important to you.
The biggest thing around needs and wants too that I think is really important is when I'm asking people, I'm not at like 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Everyone's going to say that, but I really try to get into lifestyle questions more. I try to get to the questions like are dinner parties important to you? Is the backyard barbecue important? Is the backyard bonfire important to you? Maybe it's somebody that that loves to host the hockey games on Saturday nights. So, hockey night in Canada on Saturday nights. Well, that means that a rec room is going to be important to those people. Yeah. So they've made up that, and I definitely agree with you. Like, as much as people come up with ideas and they say that this is what they're looking for, that idea is going to change, and that's okay that it changes. Mm-hmm. Like, you're out there shopping, you're not really sure what you're looking for, and we're going to kind of figure it out together as we go through houses. I say a number of times that, like, as we go through homes, I learn more about that buyer, and that buyer learns more about me. And like, when the more houses I take them through, the more I can kind of pick up those little lifestyle changes that they're looking for. That is ultimately going to be allow me to be more successful as an agent to find them their dream home.
Yeah, I agree.
But so they're out there looking at houses. Like, are they like what's the confidence that they have right now? Like, do you think they're buying it? They're ready to buy, or like like a lot of agents I've heard, like there's like the salesy lines that, there's no point in me getting out there and showing you houses unless you're ready to buy tomorrow, kind of thing. Like how do you approach that kind of a topic?
Well, in this market right now, that is kind of how I've been approaching it, but not in a rude way. But in normal situation, when the clients, the more they see, the better for them, because the more comfortable they are going to be when they make a final decision, and you don't want to miss out on a house. So if you've seen a bunch and then you finally find the one that you like, it's because you've eliminated so many, knowing what they all had to offer for that price range, and you finally find one that you like. But also,
it's almost like Einstein. He didn't fail 1,000 times or 10,000 times or whatever it is. He just found like 999 ways not to build a light bulb, right?
Yeah. and the more, what's also good is the more, what I tell my clients is, some of them they tell me they don't want to waste my time. They're like, you're busy. We don't want to waste your time by going to see all these houses. And my reply to that is, it's good for my market knowledge as well. The more houses that I see, the better I am at my job, because I am getting to view or preview all these other ones. I'm getting knowledge that I didn't have before. And the more houses I go through, the better agent and the better I can be at my job.
And that could kind of almost take us for a tangent, but the idea of, we try to be experts in our marketplace, and we try to only deal in markets that we feel comfortable to deal in. Like, to be perfectly honest, I'm not going to go show a house in French River because I don't feel comfortable down there.
Yeah.
Like, I specifically work on houses in marketplaces that I feel comfortable in. I live in Lively. I've seen 90% of the listings that get listed in Lively. So I've seen, like, I drive by it down any street in Upper Lively or Micola, or like where I live over on Cantal area. Like, I've been in most of those houses, which is creepy to think about. But in 13 years, houses have popped up in most of the houses on the street I've been in, which is kind of a weird situation. But that's the confidence I have when I actually work in an area and kind of focus in an area. Whereas, like, if you're working a marketplace, like if I go to Espanola, I think I showed houses there once when I was like first licensed, and I just don't know I don't even know the streets in Espanola. I don't know the schools. I don't know anything about them.
I agree.
So I'm not going to be an asset when I go to help somebody.
I agree.
So they're out there shopping. They've seen a few houses now. Like, I guess their confidence is getting a little bit stronger. What's the next steps? Like, are they putting offers on houses at this time? Like, what are you doing with the clients before you put offers on the house? Like, what's your process with a buyer from this perspective?
That's basically how you start. It's that easy. People call me asking me when they ask us, how do you start? It's literally just that, what we explained. But after that, then yes, once you're ready to put in an offer, we talk about it during the showings, different situations, scenarios. Then if you're comfortable and you're ready, and this is the house that you like, it's kind of a leap of faith, and it's scary because you are buying you are spending a lot of money But that's the next step, logically, is putting in an offer on something. And in our marketplace right now, time is of the essence. So you kind of have to jump on it if you like it.
So let's take a step back, because I think one of the toughest things for a lot of buyers to get their head wrapped around is the down payment. Like, how much are people needing in this marketplace to buy a house?
5% minimum.
5% plus what?
Closing costs.
So, and what are do you know what the ratio, the percentage the banks like to see for closing costs?
I don't know what the banks use. But
the banks are typically using around 2%, which I think is way higher than a first-time home buyer needs, because that's actually taking into account like you paying for land transfer tax and things like that. And the nice part as a first-time home buyer is you don't have to pay land transfer tax up to about a $350,000 home. Anything more than that, you will be responsible to pay land transfer tax for. And it's not even I pay the money out and I get the money back in. It's just the lawyers are taking it upon themselves to be able to do the transaction, and they're covering the land transfer tax and the rebate right off the bat. But the banks are looking to almost 7%. So we're talking on a $200,000 house, even that's $14,000. That's a lot of money. Where do people have $14,000? That's a lot of cash for somebody to save up.
Yeah. So before you even start talking to us, you can start talking to us whenever, but you can contact someone to learn how to, maybe not learn, but a financial advisor or a financial planner to help you save, start putting money away. Or I think was it you that gave me that tip of putting away the amount that you would be spending on the amount that you want?
That's what I try to, if you're renting a house now for $900, this is when you started saving a little bit more. But if you think that you feel comfortable making that, just like we talked about, being ready to spend $1,800 or $1,500 or $2,000 on housing expenses, putting that money aside every month, even though you're only spending $900 a month on your rent, putting that other $600 or that other $1,100 into an account and just saying, okay, this money is going to housing. Am I comfortable with that happening? So that you're actually running your day-to-day life with the expectation that your housing costs are going to be what they are going to be when you get your mortgage out.
And you're saving lots.
So that's, it's helping with the saving. But the saving part is tough. Honestly, buying your second and your third and your fourth home is so much if you're leveraging, if you're buying investment properties, it's so much easier, because at that point you've probably got an asset. That asset is probably increasing in price while you're paying down a mortgage, and you're in the position that if it has, if it's beyond 80% loan to value, then you can borrow against that house.
Yeah.
But that first house, and I think one of the things we see happen so often, and what has caused markets like Southern Ontario to increase in price astronomically, is the amount of leverage of parents giving down payments. Because so what has to happen when a parent agrees to give a down payment is they have to actually sign a letter to say, I don't expect this money back. This is a gift. This isn't a loan. Yeah. And even though it might be a loan in the background and maybe you're committing with quote unquote mortgage fraud or whatever, but if you're saying that this is a gift letter from my parents and my parents are giving me $10,000 to buy a house, well, then that's where your down payment's coming from. But you need to actually show proof that the money's sitting in an account for 60 or 90 days or something like that, or where the money's coming from, before you can actually buy your house. Now, some people are using their RSPs. And if you're using your RSPs, that's a great idea. I think it's an awesome idea in terms of leveraging. It's not the act of taking the money out of your RSPs. It's the act of, most people I deal with are first-time home buyers. They've got the money sitting in TFSA or a tax-free savings account or a high-interest savings account. And I'm just going to preface this, guys, because Tristan and myself have gotten into trouble in the past when we talk about finances. Always, always, always consult with a finance expert. We're not your finance experts here. Consult with a lawyer. Consult with your finance expert. We're just giving you ideas on how to the vehicles that are available for you to leverage to when you're out there shopping for your house. But to use your RSPs, it's not the actual act of taking the money out of your RSP. It's the actual act of putting the money into your RSP. So if you've got $15,000 saved up in a tax-free savings, well, if you invest that into your RSP this year, that's reducing your taxable income in the year 2020, which is giving you a bigger tax break in the year 2020, which could be in the, if you're in a 30% tax bracket, $15,000 contribution is a $5,000 tax return. That's an extra $5,000 of tax time. I'm going to highlight, speak to a financial expert, speak to that person that you're getting advice from, because every situation is different. And more than likely, they're going to tell you it's better to put that money into your RSP when you're making more money down the line. So again, there could be pros and cons for both, but this is people are able to, if they have money in their RSPs, they're able to take that money out of their RSPs, $25,000 to buy their first time home. Or as a small note there too, it can also be used to buy your, if you're in a divorce, I believe, and you haven't bought a house in 7 years, you could use that money as well.
So a couple of tips there. So that's the vehicle, but it's tough. But like if you're in a position, start to save, come up with that plan. And that's why I think people are looking 18 months out before they're contacting a realtor, is because they're taking the time to get their ducks in order in terms of their savings and be in a position to jump when it is the right time. So let's kind of go back. We kind of got off track and veered off, took a little bit of a left turn there, but going back to the idea of what's going on when you're like, what are you coaching people through when they're out there getting offers ready? Like, how are you walking people through the paperwork?
Well, step by step. There's quite a bit of paperwork. So you explain, I go through it all. There's different numbers for each clause. And then I just basically step by step. I can't go through it all right now.
Yeah. And maybe we can even do another one sometime. But
negotiating tactics and what works well in negotiation and what could be, depending if you're competing or not, what you should throw in there to protect the buyers as well.
You actually just sat on a negotiation course last week, didn't you?
Yep.
Yeah. So Tristan's even in a better position to negotiate now. Did you get your certified negotiation? You got a certificate of negotiation expertise. So I'm excited to get caught up on what you learned in that class too. So negotiating the offer. So like that's kind of the big steps between, and then we're going to have the actual closing and stuff like that. But today we just hey Josh, nice to have you join us today there, bud. But today we just wanted to go over what are the steps to do to put yourself in a position that you are going to be ready to buy when you're wanting to pull the trigger, right? Is there anything else that we kind of missed, or anything else that we should touch base on before ending the call, the Lake City Live today?
I think that was good.
Perfect. Well, thanks again for joining us, guys. Hopefully, we're going to try to repurpose this content and save some of it. I know it's been a little bit glitchy there, but I appreciate you guys for jumping on the call. And until next Wednesday at 1:00, we'll see you then.
Thanks, Tristan.